Just finishing up the pre-flight check, as it were. The going through the baler and lubing everything and making sure everything's proper. I haven't done the check on all the adjustments. I don't think, because we didn't make that many bales last year, that anything will have come out of adjustment that dramatically, so I'm just going to leave that. But I have lubed everything. I have cleaned everything and sprayed everything down and used air and the blower to blow out all the debris. I still have one last pass to do on that. I have one Zerk that wouldn't take grease, so I've got a kit coming to replace that one because it's a tiny metric one. So that's got to come tomorrow. And I've got this problem with this roller belt. It's torn and they're under quite a bit of tension. It's an end belt. It's this belt here, but it's up there. You can see it flap hanging out right there. Right there. Yeah, the belts are 10 inches wide, there's only 4 of them, which is great because that's fewer. But the correct way to solve that tear is to replace all the belts. I have a replacement belt, but I can't put it in because it won't be stretched. And so something would break if I were to put a brand new tight belt. Now, if I put all 4 belts new, then that would be fine. But that's an expensive and time-consuming proposition. Now, 3 of these belts are endless belts. They were basically a loop, and the baler was assembled around them. I'm not about to disassemble the whole baler to put on endless belts because that is I think about a 20-hour major pain in the backside. I'm not going to do that. So I'd have to use the lacing, it's called, but it's metal. And that's what the new replacement belts come with. So it's about $2,000 to replace all the belts, brand new. Ain't gonna happen. It's about $115 to get 2 sets of those metal lacings to repair belts. Now, the belt next to the one that's broken, now unfortunately it's an outside belt that's broken because that's one of the belts that gets the most tension as the bale's starting. And the next belt in has some tears in it that don't really seem to be affecting it at all, but I don't want to. So ideally I would swap the belts, but you can't because basically they run in races in the baler, and can't figure out. I'd have to dismantle it too far to try and skip and move belts around in between each other. I think that could be done, but it'd be a major pain. Now, the other way to solve this is to cut all the belts, trim out the bad section of the belt that's already damaged, trim out the similar size bad section of the belt that has some tears in it, and the same size section from the other 2 belts, and then relace them all. Now, that's far cheaper than buying 4 new, almost $600 belts, but it's still almost $1,000 to do that. And so I'm not feeling that wealthy at the moment. So I'm going to see, I've put out to a couple forums, what can I do to repair that? Because I only put up a couple hundred bales a year. Now this year I was hoping to do about 300. If I can make that belt last 300 bales, that would be beautiful. So I've got I've asked some questions and put it out to a couple of the Claas forums to see whether that can be fixed. There's got to be a way. I mean, I used to help. I used to work at a sawmill, and there was belting that drove some of the planers' heads, and so we used to have to repair belting. So I'm familiar with how to repair it and the kind of metal lacing and the tools. It's just, I don't have access to them. I don't know anybody who would have access, especially for a 10-inch wide belting, because most balers have like 5 7s instead of 4 10s. So anyway, or 5 or more 7s. Anyway, so I don't have access to the tools to fix this, and to buy them would, like I said, be about $1,000. So weighing up. I'm going to see whether I can fix that tear some other way. You would think that there would be like glue or bicycle repair type adhesive, because they're basically rubber belts. Like some kind of rough it up and put some kind of glue on it would at least keep it from fraying and keep it whole in some way. But anyway, I don't know. Other than that, replacing that. Oh, and the sensor is coming. The tailgate sensor should be here tomorrow. So they're going to put the sensor back on. I got to replace the Zerk, which should be here tomorrow, and find some way of repairing that belt. And then I think I'm good to go. Unless I have to replace belts, which we're not looking forward to. Everything else looks clean. Everything else looks good. I don't see any issues. I also have to go get some chain lube. I took off this plate because I want to really lube up this chain for the baling twine shuttle. I was tempted to try and work on the net wrap system, but I could spend a day, 2 days tearing it apart and cleaning and polishing it and still not get it to work. And I know that the twine wrap works, or was working last season, and I can live with it. So I'm just going to keep using the twine rather than the net wrap for now, until I can like really tear things apart. Maybe in between first and second cut I could do something. But anyway, so yeah, I've got to get this plate back on after I get some chain lube and lube up this chain. And then I also want to run the baler and the chain to get it moving back and forth. Anyway, so that's where we're standing at. And the baler, I'm just going to blow it down one last time and close it up for the day and get on to the next thing. Right, I forgot. I got one last thing to do even after that. I want to take out the knives and sharpen them and refit it with the knives. I can only fit 7 knives in, and I had to take... Let me get one. I only have 5 in, so I know I had to take 2 out for some reason last summer, and I can't remember why. So anyway, I'm going to take the 5 out, sharpen them, and see if I can get 7 back in. That's half the knives. And I've just seen something else I want to do. I want to take out this pan here that is supposed to be what feeds the net wrap in, but it's also what feeds the baling twine in. It closes up against the belts, which are right here, and the rotation draws them in, but it's really full of crap. I can see green, like fresh green things growing in there. So I gotta try to find some way. I think I gotta pull this keeper off and then lower some pins, and that should just pop out of there. And then I can clean some debris out of that. So that's gonna be next. Oh, and the Zerks just arrived, so I keep working on this today. about to do at 142?
142, I'm actually about to, even though my day has been from hell, I'm managing to get the culture in to make the cheese a good 2 or 3 hours earlier than I have on a normal day when things haven't been hell. So I guess hell's working in my favor today.
Let's hope you get a clean break. It's all about the flocculation, baby. All right, so sharpening the blades. I'm just using a, well, this one's rather worn out, but it's just a sanding flap disc. And the idea is not only to sharpen the cutting edge, both sides, but to polish them up a bit so the grass rides over them smoother. And it tends to be, I just have to sharpen them once a season for both cuts, unless I get into really brushy stuff. Now I put in the 2 new ones. I had 2 new ones, and when I bought the baler, the guy I bought it from said that he ordered them and they didn't work with this baler. But I just measured them and held them up to the old ones, and they're identical. So I don't know what he was talking about. He wasn't a very mechanically minded individual. And so I put those 2 new ones in on the outside edge. Now, the problem with this baler is it's supposed to hold 14 knives. Now, 14 knives would be at the limit of what my tractor could run and chop. So 7 seemed, and also without the net wrap, 14 knives in would cause the bales to fall apart a lot more rather than with the baling twine than with the net wrap. So I can't have all of them in. All of them don't fit in because the first owner of the baler, unless the guy I bought it from, who seemed to be a really nice guy, lied to me. He said the first owner, and he bought it, the knives wouldn't work. And I can see why, because the first owner apparently ran this thing over a stone wall and bent the hell out of the underside. I've talked about this before. So it's lucky that you can even fit 7 knives in. It's so buggered. But also you're meant to be able to have 14 knives in. You're meant to be able to drop them out and not have them active. And when you want them, you can put them in, all from the cab of the tractor, all with the control locks. That doesn't work. None of that works because things are so bent. So I've managed to find a way to get 7 knives in previously. Let's hope I can get at least another 5 in, because I love the way this thing chops and packs the bales. That is why I have this awkward, expensive, big, hard to work on, complex baler, because the product it creates is so much better than anything else I've experienced. So I have to put these in wrong. So they're held in place, they're firm, they're fine, they work just perfect, but they're not installed correctly, because to install them correctly, yeah, I just can't do it because of how damaged the underside is. And there's a locking, eccentric cam locking bar that these all sit on, and when you accentuate and move the lock into position, it pulls them and holds them. These look rather like a shoe, and then this tab here holds the back end from flipping out. And they're also supposed to be spring loaded so they retract. If you hit a big stone or a log or something, they can kind of do that. They can kind of not. The way I have it, I just make sure I don't. I work really hard to make sure I don't have stuff in my windrows. So, start installing these as I can, working to get 5 more in here. Well, I've managed to get 8 in, and I'm going to call that a win. It won't fit in some of the places because the bar is bent, and they kind of lock in. So you have to kind of, yeah, there's no easy way to show you. See how they, see how that tab up front there drops over the locking bar and sits in, and the back rests down there. Well, the back is supposed to tie in to these spring-loaded cams, and then this whole thing here, see that cam there? It's supposed to when you hit something. It's supposed to move out of the way, and then the springs snap it back. But none of that works, and it is a major overhaul. So I'll need, in order to fix this right, which I may do someday, certainly to fix that underside, I need to take out this whole pan setup from underside, that bar with all the springs, the hydraulic rams. I also need to take this out and weld two pieces in here. So at some point, this thing needs a big overhaul, like over winter when it's not being used, but I need somewhere where I can work on it enclosed and kind of warm, because each one of these things is a multi-hour fix, if even. I mean, taking the pan out, that I probably can't afford a new pan, and I don't know if I can get this one fixed because it's so buggered. But yeah, the price was right, but it was abused. All right, so I've got my knives in. I think what happened last year, one of these knives was offset and was like rubbing really hard against these rotors. Now these rotor feeds are, again, a great feature of this baler. They pull the material in and start twisting it and start forming a core right away. And they pull that material into those knives and chop it. And having the chopped silage is just great, even in just the 6-inch segments. I mean, a knife every other space is plenty, actually. I mean, the cows waste very little of the silage that's chopped, as opposed to the silage that we've been feeding that's unchopped. So, all right, that's that. Now I can go tighten those up, which again isn't easy. I've had to beat the bar down with a hammer to release it, and ideally I need some sort of pit that I can work, back this baler on and work over or something to do this job properly, because I got to get under here to do stuff, and it ain't easy getting under here to do stuff. So this bar right here has to swing back, and that's what locks those holes in the knives. And it's supposed to just swing by hand. You're supposed to be able to move that by hand, and there's no way. I've never been able to figure out how to do that. And there is no easy place to fit in here, because, yeah, there just ain't. It ain't easy. Fuck. Yeah, no, it ain't easy. Come on. There we go. And then it locks into this little pin dealie. Not too easy to get into either. There we go. All right, there's our knives locked in. See that mechanism up there and how it holds them forward all along there. But yeah, if you look how wiggled the back plate there is, it's just a mess. It's like the guy, first owner, tried to bale a stone wall with it or something. It is, it's fucked, to put it mildly. Anyway, that's that done. Let's hope. Like I said, I had to take 2 of those knives out last year, and I don't remember why. They were rubbing, or they were bent, or maybe they were just dull and I didn't put them back in. I remember a particularly wet, hot, nasty day when I had to pull one out because it was like wedged and the baler was really working hard against it. I hope that doesn't happen this year. I can't see why it would do that. I don't understand. But last year was just a mess. And plugging the baler on the first field with mud just did not go well for the rest of the year. Remember the container gardens I was building and planted so long ago? The transplants have finally, they were quite root bound when I planted them, and they finally come out of transplant shock and are finally starting to grow. And some of the seeds that I planted have germinated, but also a lot of weed seeds have germinated. So we've got to wait a little bit longer so we can determine which is which. I also gonna have to look back at the video and figure out which I planted in which pot. But the fennels are finally taking off, and everything that I transplanted pretty much survived. The tomatoes have grown about an inch in the last couple days, so key is keeping them watered, keeping them soaked, and I still have to do the other 2. Thursday, the 5th or something of May. I was out here earlier working on the baler in little 5-minute increments because I kept getting interrupted. Yesterday was a day of interruptions. I didn't get a lot done on the baler, but I had to make some major progress of cleaning, deep cleaning, because I don't want anything to go wrong on it. So that torn flap of baling belt, this one here, and it's got these scars here. I'm going to have to replace the belt, but it's $2,000 to do that. I only put up I was going to do about 350, 400 bales this year, maybe 500. That's not a lot of belts. That's not a lot of bales for these belts. So hopefully my patch will get us through. So I asked on the forum about belting, and someone said, well, use this glue paste to seal up the cut. Now, see that there? I stitched it together. Where it's called lacing, that metal knuckle thing that holds the belt together, it's called lacing. I laced it together with some stainless aircraft safety wire, and I'm hoping that will hold that in place, and I'll put this silicone mastic stuff over it that someone recommended, that said they use that on concrete sorting belts, where crushed stone falls on a belt and it moves it. And so he's used that, and it's gotten by for a lot, hours. And that's an far more abusive situation than this. So some people said just cut out the bad section and go. Other people said, replace all 4 belts at once. So we have a plan to do that, and I may buy a kit to patch belts in the fields. I still have to find the money for that. But for now, I'm going to try this. So that's what I did this morning. I laced that up with the wire and many interruptions. Now it's later in the day. Today's a weird day. I've got 3 things left to do on the baler. I got to replace the sensor, which is coming late this afternoon. I have to put a bolt in one of the tine guards at the front of the baler, and I've got to spread the mastic when Allison gets back from deliveries. So that's the baler sorted. Now, beautiful day, and it's crushing me that I can't cut anything because we've got today, tomorrow, and Saturday morning good weather, and then Saturday afternoon and Sunday we're going to get some amount of rain, light rain. It's forecast for the moment, and at least going to be cloudy and overcast. And then next week we've got lovely weather. So I really want to cut the end of this field and get it baled. just to test the baler, test the equipment, and get that moved out of the cows, you know, because it's going by the day. And all my fields now are starting to go by. So we have the rake coming. Now, just no finer point on that than this. It was supposed to be, it had to come across several states, and it got into Maine late Tuesday or early yesterday morning. And so I reached out this morning very early and said, hey, what's the status of the rake? Because they knew that I needed the rake, that it's holding. I'm going to stand under the shade here. We can sit on this tire. The rake is holding everything up. Now, yeah, I got a deal on it. Yeah, it came from several states. And I haven't paid for it yet. But, you know, I was hoping to hear something from them. They didn't say that it got here Wednesday. Or whenever, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday. So I was like, hey, you know, where's that rake? They said, oh, we'll deliver it Monday. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's 6 days from now. That's almost 5 days. And then by the time I got it Monday and then got into the field with it, it'd be 6 days, almost an entire week more of grass growth at whatever ungodly rate it's growing right now, several inches a day. So I said, yeah, that kind of sucks. That's a whole loss of, a lot of loss of production. And so they're bringing it tomorrow. So we're getting the rake delivered here tomorrow. And then, so I will mow tomorrow afternoon and rake and bale Saturday. Just an acre, just probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 bales total probably, not even. Just to test the equipment, just to get things going. And then next week I'll start on Labreeze or Farnsworth's or something, maybe get Labreeze knocked out. And so, yeah, I can't wait to get hold of this rake. Again, talked about it earlier. So we got lucky. We didn't get the grant that was going to pay for a field aerator and a manure spreader. And when I had those items quoted, of course, because the quantity of the money that we could apply for, it made sense to get the latest and the greatest, right? Brand new manure spreader, brand new field aerator, the most that we could afford within that budget of the grant. They were horrendously expensive, both of the things. We didn't get the grant. So then I said, okay, we can't get the field aerator. It's not in the budget at the moment, even though I found a new version. And they don't exist here in New England. I can get a similar one to the one we had quoted for the grant for like 12 grand less, but that's still too much. So we're going to wait. That's going on for next year, hopefully. This year, most important is a manure spreader, because I've got mountains of shit, and a rake, because I fought the hay bob all last year because we were trying to get a rotary rake. We just couldn't. This year, we found one. A lot of searching, a lot of calling around and asking, and I just wasn't finding anything out there that was worth the money used, because they were beaten up and we couldn't find anything new that we could afford. So finally, when we didn't get the grant for the manure spreader, I placed a call to one of the local equipment dealers and said, look, you quoted the really expensive, almost 40 grand side discharge spreader. I need something. Is there anything in your inventory that it had to fit certain requirements? It had to be able to hold liquid manure and have an end gate that would close, because when I drive up and down the road, I don't want to be spreading crap anywhere and causing an environmental issue. And I don't want my neighbors angry at me, so I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, right? So that adds a lot of cost. So he said, well, hang on a minute. Let me check the inventory. Let me make some phone calls. And I said, and oh, by the way, the rake that you quoted, you know, let's push hard back on that number. I can't afford a new one, because, you know, that isn't going to happen. And he goes, oh, I just heard of one that come up for sale. It was about 4 years old. It was a demo model, and it's new, but it's at a discounted 4-year-old price. I said, hey, that starts to work, because it's not the, I had a choice between a brand new Claas rake And then I was going to go for another brand that was less expensive, but was still going to be more expensive than what we found. So, and I didn't want to pay the money for that. I mean, yes, the Claas rake, but even now, the Claas rake that I found was brand new, but last 2 years old, and it was like 22 grand, and now they're 28 grand or something. So, with tariffs and all the rest of the nightmare, headaches. So, I think we've done a deal. I think we've got a manure spreader coming. It's from out of state. It's from a couple states away, and it's at a decent price, and it's brand new. So we can afford that. Not what I wanted, not as big as I wanted, not anything, but you know what? It's functional. It has a warranty. It's new. It will do the job. It's heavy duty. It should last us a lifetime. So that's perfect, until I want to upgrade, or, and until we improve the manure handling situation. A side discharge spreader probably isn't what we want, because a grapefruit sized stone in one of those side discharge spreaders will wreck the augers. Grapefruit sized stone going through the manure spreader we're getting will just pass out or get caught. It's, I can remove it. So until we get a manure pad of concrete, and I'm not pulling up stones, then this is the way to go, and it will more than work for us. So that should be coming this week, I hope. The rake, now, the rake has been a 5-year search, 4 years. I started looking for a new rake well before we got the round baler. And honestly, I didn't know what I needed. And it took getting the new mower last year and fighting the hay bob all last year to realize the size rake, the kind of rake. And I knew that we wanted a rotary rake, because pinwheel rakes may be for hay, but they're actually the worst, because they rake in, they're ground driven to run, and they may look cool, but they bring in a lot of dirt and contaminants, which ruin the quality of the forage. And then the next kind of rake is a side delivery rake. Now, we had that side delivery rake. It was too small. It worked great with my old mower. It was 9 foot and was perfect for hay, and I'd even rebuilt it. The guy who bought it from me got a great deal, because I had just completely gone through it. The only problem was it was ground driven, so no power to it, and so when hay would jam up under it, it would just drag a big mound of hay around. You had to stop and lift it and unplug it, and it was kind of a nightmare. It was worse with silage, because silage is wet, heavy grass. It did not like silage at all. And the other problem, so then why didn't I, get a bigger, maybe hydraulically or PTO operated side delivery rake, something with a little power to it? And that was perfectly feasible. It would have cost me less than we're spending on a rotary rake. Still very expensive to get a new one and a heavy built one. The problem with rotary rakes, the problem with side delivery rakes is they coil the rope and twist it. And so when the baler comes along, it pulls this endless coil in. And while the baler can handle it and chop it, my tractor is just on the short end of the spectrum for being able to power that baler with all the knives in. Even with 7 knives in, it does struggle sometimes. So when I was using the side delivery rake and I pull those coils of hay or grass in, it would plug and pack, and they were a nightmare to clean out, costing me time and effort. In the hottest days, I'm out there being eaten alive by mosquitoes and bugs and covered in ticks, trying to unplug the baler. Not that it won't happen again with a different kind of rake, but it was definite. You could just watch it happen in a thick crop of grass. But again, the side delivery rake coiled the hay and grass and plugged the baler, and also just struggled to do a proper job. So the decision was made to find a rotary rake. Now, there are 7 manufacturers of rotary rakes easily available to me. And there for a while there were almost none sold used. And then lately, and so I'm specifically talking about a single rotor rotary rake. A double rotary rake, there's 3 of those I can think of used at actually a pretty good price if you want to buy someone else's problem. So the rotary rakes can fail on a number of levels. The landing gear that they ride on, the rotor housing that augments and manipulates the bars that sweep the hay up can have issues. The ones that are typically available for sale right now, because they're popular, they're flooded out there in the marketplace, are the Kuhn, the Pequot, and the Citrix rotary rake. Also on the low end of the spectrum is Rossi and Convernland. And all of those rakes are lightweight, light class rakes. They're the lightest class. And quite honestly, they're made for flat, square fields. Especially, I have to go with a single rotor because my fields are all so small that a double rake would just be a waste of time and effort. Hard to turn in some of the fields. So I had to go with a single rotary rake. And the brands that I just mentioned are all fairly lightweight. They're all for perfectly flat, square fields, big fields. They'd be a dream in that. But my conditions are alpine. So we've got, Kubota makes a decent rotary rake too. They're fairly rare around here unless they're new, and new they're viciously expensive. There is a benefit to the Kubota rake that it shares with the Claas and the Pottinger and the Krone rake, in that the fingers, the hands that sweep, are mounted on the shaft, so that if they break, they don't get flung off into the forage. The cheaper models, the Kuhn even, they're mounted on the face of the bar, so when they shatter or break, you can lose those tines in the field, and then you're just a puncture, tractor tire puncture waiting to happen. So that's one benefit to choosing what we got. And also, on the lesser quality rakes, the tine bars aren't as thick. So I started looking around and doing a lot of research and watching a lot of videos and asking questions on forums, and it came about that Krone, Pottinger, and Claas are the heaviest duty built rakes. They're also built for alpine conditions. There are the few rakes that are just standard out of the box, even available in America, built heavy duty with the kind of landing gear, carriage, to ride on, to move over uneven and sloped ground. So that the problem is with a rake, it's flat and it's spinning. And if you go in a hollow or one wheel dips down, the tine bar will dive in and dig into the soil and either bend the bars or damage the rake or wing soil into the forage. The upper end rakes, the alpine rakes, we'll call them, don't do that. They're built for undulating, hilly territory all over the place. And those are the exact fields that I have. Rocks, hills, gullies, dips, slopes, the gambit. Everything I have here is alpine style. Maybe not the steep slopes, but the foothill type territory, yes. And so I watched videos, I learned, and at first I was going to go for the Claas rake, but it was too expensive. Even new and even last 2 years model was too expensive. Just ridiculous money. I was going to buy a Krone. I'd actually gotten a quote for a Krone rake. It was less expensive than the Claas rake. But then our dealer, our local big Krone dealer, just stopped selling it, picked up another brand, or move forward another brand they were already carrying. And the Krone dealer went to a small independent organization and that is mainly involved in selling the forage harvesting end of things. So I was a little worried about getting a used Krone rake or a new one and not having parts and availability. And again, the Krone rake is on the slightly less robust end of the spectrum. So in between the Krone and the Claas rake lies Pottinger, and I think that's what we've got coming. If all things work out, it's on its way from across the country coming to us, and I can't wait for it to get here. Like I said, it's about a 4-year-old model. It was used as a demo model. It was actually new in inventory, but got lost in the inventory system of this large organization. So it was there, and it just kept not getting sold. So as far as I understand. Anyway, so great price, new or next to, close enough to new for me not to worry about damage to it, I hope, unless something happens in shipping. And so, yeah, it's going to get here, not a moment too soon, because I'm going to have to start cutting grass, and we need that rake. And so we'll go through it when it gets here, and I'll explain again why that is the perfect rake, I believe, for our situation. I'm super excited about it. I've never used a rotary rake before. It is both the most complicated and the most simple of all the rake designs. There's, and the real reason, not only does the side delivery rake coil the hay, but both the side delivery rake, the pinwheel rake, the hay bob, little tiny rotary thing, a dump rake, they all have some level of sweeping the ground and incorporating the trash in the lower. So I try and cut the grass to at least 3 to 4 inches remain, and then the crop rests on top of that stubble. And so you don't need a rake right to the ground, except pinwheel rakes are ground driven. They rely on the running against the ground, and they make the most dirty hay. So anyway, the idea, especially for silage, making quality silage, is clean forage, because I just learned, and Pottinger and Claas are the only 2 companies that have done studies on this, particularly for dairies, that as little as 10 grams of dirt, known euphemistically as ash, when you get a forage sample back, that dirt or contaminant, as little as 10 grams can lower your milk production by up to 200 kilograms of milk. That's significant. That's a lot of milk lost. Turn that into, that's 200 liters. Hey Siri, that's something like 50 gallons of milk lost over the lactation cycle of a cow because of contamination in the feed. And also, the more contaminant you get, the lower protein, the lower energy the cows, because they reject it. They don't eat the dirty stuff that smells bad. They don't, and it can contaminate it and spoil a whole bale. So the idea with a rotary rake is to sweep the ground and not touch the ground, and cleanly collect the hay into a windrow so you can bale it. And the reason I went with the alpine style I was talking about is because of their stability for rolling over uneven and lumpy, bumpy hillside grounds. All the fields I have around here are like that. And the Pottinger comes with an extra dolly wheel out front to even minimize the rakes tipping and digging into the soil. So they also did a study with and without that dolly wheel, and how many times the rake either dipped down because of an uneven bump. And already the Pottinger rake has one of the better, we call it landing gears, the wheels that the rake rides on. It has one of the better sets of that without the dolly wheel for undulating ground, but the dolly wheel makes it even more stable. So when you hit an undulation, the tines don't dig in on the front, but lift up and miscrop on the back. So it's more efficient, it's cleaner. I'm really hoping that this is totally worth the money. I'm sure it is. And of course, as soon as we agreed to buy the new rake, all kinds of used rakes showed up on the market. But the other thing is, I got a rake sized to our mower. So a smaller rake wouldn't work as well. And this is the biggest single rotor rake, so that anybody makes, the size of it, so that I should be able to sweep three windrows together into one, and swaths into one windrow from the mower. And if I need to double it, then I go up one side and down the other like I used to do with a side delivery rake. So nothing's really changed there. If I need to build a bigger windrow in thinner crop, I know how to do that. So yeah, I am really excited to get this going, and I'm chomping at the bit, because as soon as the sensor arrives today for the baler, then this is going to be ready to go. And then it's really just down to having the rake to rake it. And because of the cost of diesel, I'm counting on this rake to help us be way more efficient than the god-awful nightmare of last year with trying to rake, especially on a big tractor, especially with the swaths that I had with the baler, with the mower, and building tiny windrows for the baler. Yeah, I mean, this baler is hungry, and I haven't been feeding it well because of the raking. Either the side delivery rake or the little hay bob did not do a good job. So hopefully this year, haying will be a lot easier from the simple addition of a better quality rake. Now, I'm in the commercial kitchen.